Holy Spirit. Well, if you ever doubt that God has a sense of humor, this Sunday, a week before my son's wedding, we have a story about a wedding where things go wrong. And we have a story about a son who sounds kind of rude, doesn't he? So it's kind of interesting to think about this. I often say, gee, God is so good, this is exactly what I needed to hear today. This is not what I need to think about. I just want to say that. It's a little troubling the way Jesus talks to Mary, isn't it? He, it sounds a little rude. It sounds like he's saying, hey, woman, leave me alone. And that's a translation problem. He's, in his vernacular, in his time, he's really saying, Mom, okay, don't worry about it. And he's trying to put a little bit of distance between him and his mother, which is really appropriate, right, for an adult male, and I'm going to have to adjust to that. But Jesus is saying, I have an inner calling from another place. He has going to be answering to a different authority than his mother, and that's appropriate. And he's gently, really, saying to her, look, I'm listening to another voice, a voice in my heart that I will obey. So there's Jesus. Weddings, boy, they are disasters waiting to happen, aren't they? There are so many things going on, and so many pieces, and you just have to trust that it's all going to come together. There's a lot of strong emotions, and I certainly see this when I work with families, coming up to a wedding and just before and after a marriage. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of anxiety and a lot of worry. And I love the fact, and it's very comforting to see, that Jesus is there and that he responds to that. He doesn't just say, oh, that's just, normal human stuff, I'm not going to bother with it. The good news is that he sees it, he hears it, he's aware of it, and he does something about it. And the people there don't even know it's happening. So to me, the really good news is that, Jesus is at work all around us. And just because we're not seeing any, lightning bolts, doesn't mean that miracles aren't happening, that they are happening, and that Jesus is at work all the time. Just coming off of Christmas, we could think, well, gee, if there's no angels singing, if there's no star in the sky, if there's no announcement from Gabriel, miracles just aren't going to happen. But here we see that miracles are happening all the time, all around us, and we're not even aware of it. And that makes me feel much, much better about our world, doesn't it? Because we know that Jesus is active. When Jesus is in the house, miracles happen. And we claim and believe that Jesus is in this house. 2 or 3 are gathered together. That Jesus is in our lives. He has promised to be with us always, not just in the good times and not just in the bad times, but blessing us throughout our lives in ways that we often don't have the eyes or ears or heart to see and acknowledge. But our belief says that he is here and that he is working. All of the anxiety and doubts and worry that we can have about things like a wedding, well, I often have them about things that are happening here. This is a really busy place. It's like there's a bunch of plates that are spinning up there above my head. And, half the time I just kind of touch in with them, and to my amazement, they're still spinning. There are things happening. There are a lot of things that all of you are doing in this world, in your ministry, here at the church, that are just happening. And that is such an amazing thing for me to see, because for a very long time, I would just sort of worry about everything that was happening here, and I have come to believe and come to see that, it's okay. That Jesus is here, miracles are happening, and I don't have to be in the middle of them. And thank you for that. You have increased my faith in amazing, amazing ways. Because I see it happening, I'm actually starting to believe it. And sometimes it's like that, isn't it? We see things happening, and then we say, yeah, I can believe that this is going to be okay. I can believe that God is at work. And that even when things don't go 100% the way we would like them to go, Jesus is there underpinning us, working with us, and miracles are happening all around us. And I am so grateful for that. Often very quietly behind the scenes. Often you are all doing things that I don't even know about. And it's just amazing. And with my eyes, I see here that lives are changed. I see that ministries are being strengthened, that hospitality is being offered, that faithful stewardship is growing, that mature Christian disciples are being formed. And that is an amazing, wonderful thing to be a part of. This past week, our vestry meeting was the meeting. January meeting is always the sort of last-ditch effort to get the budget together. And sometimes it feels like a last-ditch effort. Sometimes it's fine. And so this week we had our meeting, and the meeting went well. But it's always, it's never a great meeting. There are those of you here who would say, is there any, so that's an oxymoron, Karin, great meeting. But on Wednesday, I was coming out from a nursing home facility and ran into one of our vestry members in the parking lot. And she said, gee, that meeting last night was great. That was a great meeting. And I was like, what? I didn't say that. I just said, oh, I'm so glad you thought so. It was a great meeting. And I drove away and thought, that is grace. That is Jesus at work. Those are miracles that happen because, honestly, it was a good meeting. And it was good to hear. And it shows me that there is just so much to celebrate. And that Jesus, being present at this wedding, helping people to celebrate, blessing their joy, blessing this couple, making sure that this celebration happened, shows me that Jesus wants us to celebrate, that joy is appropriate, and that it points us to God's abundance, especially Jesus' presence here at this wedding, blessing our joy, blessing our sadness, and also showing us that God is present through all of those moments. There is some religion, I think, that does not have a lot to do with the stuff of life, with real life events like weddings. They just kind of is very, very focused on other things. And I believe that our church is very good at focusing on the real stuff of life. That being said, when I was in Australia, the amazing thing, if any of you have been to Australia, is the culture there, the people. They are so open. They are so vibrant. They're so alive. They are out there 5 a.m. swimming and, skating, and they're out there. They're amazing people. Well, when we were in Sydney, I went to church, and it was the early service. It was probably a 9 o'clock service. But that service was so dull and so dead, and it had nothing to do with the culture and the people that I had experienced in Australia. And I think it's really important for us to remember that our worship, that our time here together as a community is a reflection of our lives. It's a both and, it's not an either or, that our worship and our time together is part of our lives, part of the stuff of our lives. And that Jesus celebrated with those who were getting married, those who were being healed, and those who were being fed. He rejoices with us and shows us the abundance of his love and the abundance of his joy. And all of that, for me, helps me to have faith and trust in the presence of Jesus here in this community, in our lives, in my life, in the lives of our country, of the world, and how important it is for all of us to open our eyes to the miracles that are happening all around us every day. Miracles like these two little boys having a conversation with each other at the back of the church, and how incredibly wonderful, amazing miracles that Jesus brings our way. Amen.